Hello, good evening students. Today we are going to start the new chapter refraction of the light at curved surfaces. In generally, when we put any lime in the glass of water, it appears like a bigger size due to refraction occurred at curved surfaces of the glass. And also in our real life, so many people wear spectacles while reading the books and newspapers, and also while seeing the distant objects due to some eye defects occurred them. So that to correct those eye defects, we are using spectacles. So those spectacles are working on the principle of refraction of the light at curved surfaces. Okay. So in this chapter, we have so many topics. First of all, what is meant by curved surface and how the image is formed when any light ray incident on the curved surfaces, and also lenses, types of lenses. In this class, we are discussing only biconvex lens and biconcave lens, and when any object which placed in front of either biconvex or biconcave, how the ray diagrams are formed, and also what is the virtual image and what is the real image and the differences between virtual and real image. Next, we derive lens formula and lens makers formula. So first, what is curved surface and what are the parts existing in the curved surface? So any surface, any transparent medium, either bulging inwards or outwards, is known as curved surface. Any transparent medium or any transparent substance bulging either inwards or outwards is known as curved surface. For example, this is treated as a curved surface. So this is painted pot is treated as a denser medium. This pot is treated as a rarer medium. So the center of the curvature of the sphere of which it is part, the center is called center of the curvature of this curved surface also. Okay, for example, if you imagine full sphere of this curved surface, any curved surface, it must be part of any one sphere. The center of those sphere is also center of this curved surface, what we have taken in this context. Okay, the geometric center of this curved surface is called pole. The geometric center of this curved surface is called pole. The line which is moving through the pole and center of the curvature, the line which is joining P and C, or in other words, the line which is moving through the P and C is known as principal axis. So these are the parts of curved surface. One is the center of the curvature, and second one is pole, and the line which is moving through the P and C is called principal axis. So when any light ray which comes from any light source incident on any curved surface, at that time what is the behavior of the refraction? What is the behavior of the refracted ray? For this, here we are taking 4 examples. How many examples? 4 examples. So in the first case, this is treated as a denser medium. In the second case, it is treated as a denser medium. It is treated as a denser medium. It is treated as a denser medium. So, according to geometry, so this is called center of the curvature, this is called pole. Okay, so the line which is passing through the center of the curvature and the pole is called principal axis. So any line which is passing from the C and intersect at any one point of the curved surface, this line is also called as radius. This line is also called as radius. So the radius must be perpendicular to the point on the curved surface where it contacts, because if you draw any tangent either any one direction, at the time the angle between this radius and tangent becomes 90 degrees, means the tangent and the radius at the point of contact on the curved surface is perpendicular to each other, because the angle which is existing between these two lines is 90 degrees, so that the radius must be perpendicular to the point at which it contacts. Okay, so here we are taking for examples. For example, if any light ray which comes from any light source incident on the curved surface, at the time the refracted ray may follow the rules when any light ray incident on the plane transparent surface. Now we are going to discuss. For example, here any light ray which passes from any light source passing through the principal axis, at the time the corresponding refracted ray doesn't deviate its direction. It is the first principle. Any light ray which passes along the principal axis, the corresponding refracted ray doesn't deviate its direction. Why? Because it passes through the principal axis, means it is perpendicular to the point of contact. Because PC is also treated as one of the radius of the curved surface. In the same manner, any light ray, this is called radius, because the line joining between center and any one point of the curved surface, so that it is called radius. Radius is perpendicular to the point of contact at the curved surface. So any line which passes along the radius, the corresponding refracted ray doesn't deviate its direction, because it incidents perpendicularly or vertically at this point. Okay, so in this case, for example, any light ray which travels from rarer medium to denser, parallel to the principal axis and incident at any one point of the curved surface, at the time what is the behavior of corresponding refracted ray. So recall the refraction principle once again when it is occurred on plane surfaces. For example, any light ray which moves from rarer to denser, the corresponding refracted ray moves nearer to the normal. Second case, when any light ray which moves from denser to rarer, the corresponding refracted ray moves away to the normal, which is occurred in plane surfaces. In the same manner, here also those refraction laws must obey in these cases also. For example, here one light ray which moves from rarer to denser and incident on the convex surface. Convex surface means bulging outwards surface. Any curved surface which bulging outwards is known as convex surface. Any curved surface which bulging inwards is known as concave surface. Here one light ray which passes from rarer to denser and moves parallel to the principal axis and incident at any one point on the convex curved surface. What happened? So draw those line in the same direction to understand the behavior of refracted ray. First of all, immediately what we have to do? To draw one normal to this point of contact where this light ray incident. According to principle, any light ray which moves rarer to denser, the corresponding refracted ray moves nearer to the normal. So that the original direction of this incident ray is like this, which are denoting by the dotted form. If it moves nearer to the normal means, if it goes, it is called moves away to the normal. But according to the principle of the refraction, it moves nearer to the normal, so that it moves like this. It moves in this direction. So any light ray which moves rarer medium to denser medium and parallel to the principal axis, at the time the corresponding refracted ray moves nearer to the normal. Okay. Next. So here in this case, the curved surface is convex surface or bulging outwards. The line which is passing through the center of the curvature and pole is called principal axis. So here, if you take any light ray which moves denser to rarer medium and which travels parallel to the principal axis. To understand the behavior of refracted ray, draw the original direction of those incident ray in the dotted form. If you draw this line, you understand very clearly, very easily. Immediately you have to draw one normal to this point of contact. That is nothing but radius. If you draw one radius from the center of the curved surface to those point of contact where the incident light ray interact. So again recall the principle of refraction. Any light ray which moves from denser to rarer, denser medium to rarer medium, the corresponding refracted ray moves away to the normal. Here normal is, this is normal. This is the original direction of the incident light ray. For example, if we draw in this domain, it is nearer to the normal. So that is wrong. So immediately you have to draw this incident ray, the refracted ray in this direction. At the time we can say that it is moves away to the normal. So any light ray which passes from denser medium to rarer medium and travels parallel to the principal axis, at the time the corresponding refracted ray moves away to the normal. Here in the first case, the light ray incident on the convex surface, but it travels from rarer to denser. In the second case also, the light ray incident on the convex surface, but it travels from denser to rarer. Now we are going to discuss about when any light ray which moves from rarer medium to denser medium and incident on any concave surface. Here also this is called pole. this is called the center of the curvature. The line which is passing through the line which is passing through the C and P is called principal axis. For example, here also any light ray which incident on the concave surface which moves parallel to the principal axis. Immediately what we have to do? To draw one normal to this point of contact. What is meant by normal here? If you draw one radius, that is called normal. So again recall the properties of refraction. Any light ray which moves from rarer to denser medium, the corresponding refracted ray moves nearer to the normal. So that if you draw the original direction of this light ray in the dotted form, this domain is nearer to the normal and this place is away to the normal. So that this light ray moves in this direction. Okay. Next, fourth case. Here also the light ray incident on concave surface, but it travels from denser to rarer. This is called P. This is called C. The line which is passing through the C and P is called the principal axis. Again, you draw one light ray which travels from denser to rarer medium and also parallel to the principal axis. Draw the original direction of this light ray in the dotted form, and also immediately you have to draw one normal to this point of contact. Okay. And recall the properties of refraction. Any light ray which moves from denser medium to rarer medium, the corresponding refracted ray moves away to the normal. So this place or this domain is nearer to the normal, this place is away to the normal, so that it moves in this direction. Here in this case, the refracted ray intersect at any one point of the principal axis. Those point is treated as a focal point. So here we are discussing the behavior of the refracted rays when the light rays incident on the curved surfaces. Here also we must remind one thing: if any light ray which moves either denser to rarer or rarer to denser, if it incidents perpendicularly or vertically on the curved surface, at the time the corresponding refracted ray doesn't deviate its direction. Means if any light ray which moves through the principal axis, the corresponding refracted ray doesn't deviate its direction. Next, any light ray which moves through the radius of those curved surface, the corresponding refracted ray also doesn't deviate its direction. You must remember these two things, and also in these all cases same principles obeyed. When the light ray passes from one transparent medium to another transparent medium, the corresponding refracted ray behaves same like when the refraction is occurred in the plane surfaces. Now we are going to discuss why any lime placed in the glass of water, the size of the lime appeared big because the refraction occurred on the curved surfaces, so that it appeared big. So now we are going to discuss about how the image of any object which is placed in the curved tumbler or curved beaker of water, at the time it appears big, so that it here the image is formed bigger. We are discussing how the image is formed bigger by doing one mathematical derivation. By deriving this formula, we can understand very easily when the refraction is occurred on curved surfaces, how the image is formed. Okay. Here we are going to discuss image formation of any object when the light ray is incident on the curved surfaces. For this, we assume one situation in which we placed one point object at point O on the principal axis. One light ray passes along the principal axis from the point object O, then the corresponding refracted ray doesn't deviate its direction so that it moves in the same way. And also one more light ray which moves in this direction and incident at point A on one curved surface. Immediately you draw one normal from this point of contact. Here one angle is formed between incident ray and normal. Those angle is called incidence angle or angle of incidence, which is denoted by the letter theta 1. According to refraction, this is treated as a rarer medium and this is treated as a denser medium. Any light ray which moves from rarer to denser, the corresponding refracted ray moves nearer to the normal, so that the original direction of this incident ray is like this, but it moves nearer to the normal due to the principle of refraction, so it moves in this direction and it intersect the principal axis at this point. This point is treated as a I. Draw one normal from the point A to principal axis. So where this normal intersect the principal axis, those point is treated as a N. The angle between incident ray and the principal axis is alpha, and the angle between radius or normal and the principal axis is beta, and the angle between refracted ray and the principal axis is treated as a gamma. Here theta 1 is incidence angle and theta 2 is refraction angle or angle of refraction. So here we have so many triangles are formed. One is AOC and another one is ANB and another one is ACI, like this. So consider AOC triangle AOC. If we extend this AC side, here one exterior angle is formed, that is called a theta 1. According to the properties of triangle, in any triangle, any one of the three sides of those triangle is extended, one exterior angle is formed. The exterior angle is equals to the sum of opposite interior angles, so that here opposite interior angles of this triangle is alpha and beta. Alpha and beta. Theta 1 is equals to alpha plus beta. Next, consider ACI triangle. Triangle ACI. Here also, if we extend this side, CI or IC side, one exterior angle is formed, beta. So according to the properties of the triangle, exterior angle is equals to sum of the opposite interior angles. So beta is equals to theta 2 plus gamma. Theta 2 plus gamma. So any additive factor moves other side of the equality, it gets a subtraction, so that beta minus gamma is equals to theta 2, or theta 2 is equals to beta minus gamma. So theta 1 is equals to alpha plus beta. This is treated as a equation 1. Theta 2 is equals to beta minus gamma. This is treated as a equation 2. So apply the Snell's law for this condition. Snell's law. What is the importance of Snell's law? What is the objective of Snell's law? Snell's law explains the behavior of the refracted ray when any light ray moves from one transparent medium to another transparent medium. And also the refractive index of the this rarer medium is N1 and the refractive index of the denser medium is treated as a N2. So N1 into sin I is equals to N2 into sin I. This is Snell's law. So substitute all these values, angle of incidence and angle of refraction in this equation, we get N1 into sin theta 1, because here angle of incidence is treated as a theta 1, N2 into sin theta 2. But by doing the calculation, we get theta 1 is equals to alpha plus beta and theta 2 is equals to theta minus gamma. Substitute these values in this equation, we get sin alpha plus beta is equals to N2 into sin theta 2 is equals to how much? Theta minus gamma. Here any light rays which moves nearer to the, for example this is treated as a principal axis, any light rays which moves nearer to the principal axis, so this is principal axis, any light rays which moves very nearer to the principal axis, those rays are called paraxial rays. Paraxial rays. So in the case of paraxial rays, the values of the angles are very small, so that we remove the sign ratio here, then we get N1 into alpha plus beta is equals to N2 into beta minus gamma. This approximation is called paraxial approximation. If the any light rays which moves very nearer to the principal axis, those light rays are called paraxial rays. In the case of paraxial rays, the values of the angles are very small, so that we remove the sign ratios, then we get N1 into alpha plus beta is equals to N2 into beta minus gamma. So N1 alpha plus N1 beta is equals to N2 beta minus N2 gamma. So this is treated as a equation 3. This is treated as a equation 3. So consider this triangle, for example AON. Here one, this is a right angle triangle. Here one angle is formed. To find the tan ratio for this angle, we get tan alpha is equals to opposite by adjacent. Opposite by adjacent. AN by ON. Next, tan beta is equals to, consider this triangle ANC. So opposite here also AN by CN or NC. Next, tan gamma. For this we consider the triangle ANI. Opposite AN by NI. So substitute all these values in the equation 3, we get N1. So again we apply the paraxial approximation, so that tan alpha is also treated as alpha. So in the place of tan alpha we can substitute N1 into AN by ON plus N1 into beta AN by NC is equals to N2 beta an by mc minus n2 gamma an by ni. So here we are substituting tan alpha is equals to an by on. We are substituting this value in the place of alpha. Why? We are considering this case for paraxial rays. The rays which are moving very nearer to the principal axis, those rays are called paraxial rays. For the case of paraxial rays, the angles are very small, so that we ignore the tan ratios and sin ratios what we require. Okay. So n1 into an by on plus n2 into an by ni is equals to n2 into an by nc. If it moves other side of the equality, it gets a subtraction n1 into an by nc. This is treated as a equation 4. Okay. In the case of paraxial rays means the rays which are traveling very nearer to the principal axis. At that time what happened? This point n must be coincides with the point P. For example, this is curved surface, this is point object O, one light ray which moves very nearer to the principal axis and incident at point A. If you draw one normal from this point A to principal axis, this must be coincides with the pole. So that here we are discussing this case for the case of paraxial rays. So that in the place of n, we substitute P, then we get n1 into AP by OP plus n2 into AP by OI is equals to PI is equals to n2 into AP by PC minus n1 into AP by PC. So in the optics, the distance between pole and object is called the distance of the object. It is denoted by OP or PO, that is equals to U. The distance between optic center and the center of the curvature is called radius of the curvature. It is denoted by the letter R. The distance between pole and the image is called distance of the image. PI is denoted by the letter V. So distance of the object is denoted by the letter U. Radius of the curvature is denoted by the letter R. Distance of the image is denoted by the letter V. So in the n1 into AP by OP is equals to U plus n2 into AP by PI is equals to V, that is equals to n2 into AP by PC is equals to R, n1 into AP by PC is R. So in these two terms we have AP is a common, so it take as a common factor AP into n1 by U plus n2 by V is equals to, here also in both terms AP is existing, AP is taken as a common factor n2 by R minus n1 by R. So AP gets cancelled, then we get n1 by U is plus n2 by V is equals to n2 minus n1 by R, because in both fractions R is being as a denominator. But it is applied, this equation is applied for only one particular condition, but if we generalize this equation, means if we apply this equation for all conditions when any light ray incident on any curved surface, so we must follow the sign conventions. we must follow the sign conventions. What are the sign conventions? So we have three sign conventions. One is all distances should measure from the pole, either distance of the object or distance of the image or radius of the curvature. All distances should measure from the pole. So distance of the object. For example, if we measure the distance of the object, we measure from pole to object. If we measure the distance of the image, from pole to image is called distance of the object. If we measure the radius of the curvature, we must measure from P to C is called the radius of the curvature. So the first sign convention is all distances should measure from the pole. This is the first sign convention. Next, second sign convention. If we measure these distances in the direction of the incident light, at the time we take positive value for those values. Repeat again. If we measure all these distances in the direction of the incident light ray, at the time we take positive values. If we measure all these distances opposite to incident light direction, at the time we take negative value. In the direction of the incident light, take positive. Opposite to direction of the incident light, at the time we take negative value. This is second sign convention. Next, third sign convention. When we measure the heights of the objects or heights of the images above the principal axis, at the time we take positive values. When we measure the heights of the images, objects or images below the principal axis, at the time we take negative value. So we have three sign conventions. First sign convention is we should measure all distances from the pole. Second sign convention is when we measure all these distances along the direction of the incidental light, at the time we take positive value. If we measure all these distances opposite to the incidental light direction, at the time we take negative value. If we measure the heights of the objects or images above the principal axis, at the time we take positive value. If we measure the heights of the images or objects below the principal axis, at that time we take negative value. If we apply these sign conventions to this equation, we get here the incident light direction is like this because the object is here. So distance of the object. Distance of the object means we should measure the distance of the object from pole to object. Here we are moving opposite to incident light direction, so that distance of the object becomes minus u. Distance of the object becomes minus u. Distance of the image. So the distance between pole and image is called distance of the image. Here we are moving in the direction of the incident light direction, so that v becomes positive. And the distance between radius of the curvature. While measuring the radius of the curvature, we are moving in the incident light direction, so that radius of the curvature PC is also take positive value. So u becomes negative, v becomes positive, and radius of the curvature is also becomes positive. So substitute all these positive signs in this equation, we get n1 minus u plus n2 by v is equals to n2 minus n1 by r. So r is positive. It can be written as n2 by v minus n1 by u is equals to n2 minus n1 by r. n2 by v minus n1 by u is equals to n2 minus n1 by r. So this is the equation for the image when any object placed in front of a curved surface. So n2 by v minus n1 by u is equals to n2 minus n1 by r, where n2 is the refractive index of the second medium or denser medium, n1 is the refractive index of the first medium or rarer medium, u is the distance of the object, v is the distance of the image, and r is the radius of the curvature. So here this formula is also applies when the refraction is occurred on plane surfaces. refraction is occurred on plane surfaces. At that time, what is the equation for formation of the image when the refraction occurred on plane surfaces? For example, if you take any plane transparent surface, what is the radius of the curvature of those plane surface? For example, those plane surface is also must be part of our planet, so that those radius of the curvature of those plane surface becomes infinite value, huge value, so that we take n2 by v minus n1 by u is equals to n2 minus n1 by infinity, because r becomes infinity for plane surfaces, because plane surface is also part of our planet. That's why we take the radius of our planet Earth becomes to the radius of those plane surface, though that's why we take infinite value. So according to mathematics, 1 by 0 is equals to infinite. So 1 by infinite is nothing but 0. So that n2 by v minus n1 by u is equals to, this becomes 0. So n2 by v is equals to n1 by u, or n1 by u is equals to n2 by v. So this is the equation for formation of the image when the light rays refracted on plane surfaces. Light rays refracted on plane surfaces. For curved surfaces, n2 by v minus n1 by u is equals to n2 minus n1 by r. For plane surfaces, n1 by u is equals to n2 by v. n1 by u is equals to nt by v.